Hello everybody and welcome to a brand new Elder Scrolls Online build video with me, Sherman. Today we are taking a look at the Barbarian tank. This is a Sorcerer tank. It is made for in-game dungeons and trials. It can do normal and veteran and hard mode of all of them. It's a pretty good build. It's overall fun. I'm not gonna lie, I mean it is a kind of fun build. It's different than the meta, so it kind of adds some uniqueness to it and allows you to really get in and just take a beating as a tank. It does have a lot of CC, which is good, and it has some good, well, it has good CC, not awesome CC. And it has overall good tankiness to it, so let's go ahead and get into it. This is an Orc Sorcerer. Orc works best for this. Khajiit is second best, and then any other race is good for that after that. But you lose a lot of health recovery if you choose any other race besides Orc and Khajiit. That's why they're the better ones for this, because they actually get health recovery on them. And this is a health recovery tank. So, as you can see, 23k magic, 35k health, 22k stamina. We don't have a lot of weapon crit for this build, so it's gonna be hard to maintain crit surge. But crit surge is a chunk of this build, and it allows for some good survivability. But I went ahead and removed crit surge for this because it just doesn't hit enough. So we have to rely more on health recovery and a monster set to keep our survivability up through heals. Because using Dark Deal has a cast time, and it can get in the way. So it gets in the way on certain encounters, mostly some of the trials. And not all trials, like 3 of them, where you're going to have issues with it. The rest of them, it works out pretty well. But we do have a 23k spell resist and physical resist, which is really good. We're at a good resistance level. So, and when we buff up, just so you can see for yourselves, we go to 29 and 28. So we're at a really good place with our resistances. Next up, we are running the Steed Mundastone. This is going to give us our major movement, or give us a little bit of increased movement speed. It's also going to give us our increased health recovery, and then we are running Tri-Stat food. There is another food you can get that is a Magicka, or a health and health recovery, but then you just put everything in the Magicka. Don't worry about your stamina too much. Or, sorry, put everything in the stamina. Don't worry about your Magicka so much. That's it. You're just going to have a hard time maintaining your Magicka with such low magic recovery. So, alright, so going into the gear. Starting with the monster set, we are running Melibeths. The reason why is because it gives us extra max health. It also gives us extra healing. Like I said, you have a 6% chance for this to proc. It does proc quite a bit, because it's whenever you take damage, you have a 6% chance. It does grant you major vitality, increasing your healing received by 30%, so it increases any heals that you use on yourself or that are used on you. So it's kind of a nice trade-off there. Next up, we do have the green pack set. This gives you max health, health recovery, max health, and then whenever you use an active food buff, or an active food, it will give you 2,500 extra health plus 250 health recovery. Really good, like, health sustain with this. And then the next that we're using is Beekeepers, which is another really good health sustain set for health recovery. So, on the gear itself, we are running 3 infused with Tri-Stats. The shield is sturdy with a Tri-Stat. It is purple. I forgot to change it. Sorry, guys. But it doesn't change it by much. So, on the smaller pieces, you want to go sturdy. And on the jewelry, you want to go 2 protective. The reason why is because we're not using any sets that give us extra resistances. And these give you 1,844 extra resistance. And you don't lose out on that much. Next up, we have the necklace, which has a healthy enchant on it. You can go infused here if you want. You will lose a little bit of health. But you have stats that you can pull from to increase it, so you can pull a little bit from Magicka if you want and put it into health to keep you at that 35k range. That's where this build works best, is 35k health. But you want to reduce cooldown on the potion, so this way your potions pop every 40 seconds instead of 45. If you go with the other one, it's like every 30 38 or something like that. It's 37. It's 8 seconds instead of 5. And then moving on to the sword and the back bar, which is dual wield. We are using a sword on the main bar with Crusher enchant. Crusher will be up quite a bit. You don't get 100% uptime, unfortunately, because you will be swapping bars quite a bit. But on the back bar, we are running dual wield with weakening and hardening enchant. The reason we're running a hardening enchant is to give us a little bit of extra survivability when we're on the back bar. And this does proc every 10 seconds, so it says 5 seconds, but for some reason they got an eternal cooldown on some of these for 10 seconds, so it will go grant the shield for 5 seconds, but it goes away and you have to wait 10 seconds to get it back. So we are using a defending offhand weapon, and our main hand weapon is an infused weakening enchant. Really good setup there. So moving on to the skills, guys. Make sure you unlock all your passives for your class. Then moving on to weapons, get your weapon passives. You're going to want to make sure you get both of those. On the passives, you want to fill them all in. Light armor passives, top 3. Medium armor, top 2, bottom 1. I accidentally filled this one in. Heavy armor, fill them all in. And then on to the world skills. You don't have to do this. I like to do this soul summons because it gives me a revive every 1 hour without a soul gem. So kind of nice. Especially if you're having some issues playing through content and you're getting used to this build. It allows you some mishaps, so without the cost of soul gems. Moving on to werewolf, you don't need werewolf. They gave us werewolf in this update, so you can be a vampire with it or a werewolf. It doesn't matter. Just don't use the transformation. Fighters Guild and Mages Guild. You just need the skill the quest skills for like persuasion and the intimidation. That's it. Sigic Order, if you want to use Deep Thoughts, you can. I will show you where you can put it in there, and make sure you get the Sigic Order passives. Undaunted, get the bottom 2, of course. Racial passives, or get all of them. You're going to want them all, especially the... Yeah, just get them all. Alchemy, medicinal use, and then provisioning, gourmand, and connoisseur. You're going to want these because they are very important. Alright, moving on to the skills on the bar. Starting with the main skill, we have Pierce Armor. This is our Major Breach, Major Fracture, and our Taunt. It does do a decent amount of damage, guys, not gonna lie, and it helps. Next up, we have Heroic Slash. This is our Minor Heroism and Minor Maim application. Minor Heroism uptime is really good, of course, because you're going to be doing this every 9 seconds, so you get ultimate coming in all the time, and you can use it while blocking. So if you want to use blocking for this build, it's fine. Next up, we have Restraining Prison. This is basically a CC. It's going to lock enemies in place. And you're going to get Major Vitality for 2 seconds. And 1 second per enemy in the area, so up to 6. So you can get a pretty decent amount of uptime on this, which is good. Next up we have Hardened Ward. This is going to be our damage shield. And before anyone complains, it is 12k, so it's a really powerful shield. Moving on, we have Bound Aegis. Now, I know a lot of people are going to say, why not Bound Armaments since you're more of a stamina build? You can go with Bound Armaments, you just won't get Minor Ward, Minor Resolve. And that comes in handy with this. But you also still get the 36% mitigation when you block for 3 seconds, so on either one. It's just one gives you max stamina, one gives you max magicka. And one gives you 11% on your heavy attacks, so... Yeah, Bound Armaments honestly is better, not gonna lie. Like, the only reason why I chose Bound Aegis is because a lot of people like that uptime of Minor Ward and Minor Resolve, so... Next up, we do have Shield Discipline. This is our ultimate for Sword and Shield. This gives us 7 seconds of no actual holding block. It still costs us, you know, resources, but that's okay. And, the one-handed sword and shield abilities have a 100% reduced cost, so that means they are free. So you can use Pierce Armor and Heroic Slash. Heroic Slash basically to your heart's content while it's up. Next up, on the back bar, we are using dual wield, guys, and with this we have Blood Craze. This does a dot It does do a heal over time, but it keeps up our application of our enchants on our weapons, even if we switch to the front bar. We also have Blade Cloak, or Deadly Cloak. We use this for the major evasion. This also gives us an extra tick of damage, which is kind of nice, but we mainly use it for the major evasion. We do have Dark Deal here, and Dark Deal is that ability that you can swap out with the Sigil Order ability if you want. Deep Thoughts, or if you're really feeling like you need a little bit more out of the build, I would suggest using Resolving Vigor or Echoing Vigor. Echoing Vigor is just, it's going to give everyone the same amount of health. Resolving Vigor is going to give you more health back, with the other one giving you a little less. So either one of these you can go with on this bar, or in this spot. And of course, if you're feeling really squirrely, you can go with Crit Surge, which is actually a really, really good one to use. This has increased healing, and it gives you Major Brutality, which is pretty good. So you can use that instead of Dark Deal. The only reason why I put Dark Deal here is because it does give stamina back. You don't really have a stamina issue, so. Next, we do have Hurricane on the bar. This is our Major Ward, Major Resolve. It does do damage over time in an area of effect up to a maximum of 9 meters. So it's a nice thing, and it can proc Implosion, which does a decent amount of damage. So, Sword Tanks, they're crazy. Next up, we have Aggressive Warhorn. This is here for the max magic and max stamina for our groups and us. This also gives us Major Force, increasing critical damage by 15%. And when we have Warhorn up, I don't know if I have it, we do go to 24k stamina and 24k magicka, which is really good because it does increase our abilities on our bar by damage output because of the increased stats. Not by a huge amount, but by enough. This also increases our shield strength, which is really nice. Takes us up to 13k. So, alright, now moving on to the CP, starting with the Red Tree. We have 66 in Ironclad. This reduces damage taken from direct damage attacks by 22%. 5 into Spell Shield. This increases our spell resistance by 514. This adds to our resistance level because our resistances are so low, being a Sorc. Moving on over here, 56 in Hardy. This increases physical, poison, disease damage by 12%, Elemental Defender, Flame, Frost, Shock, and magic damage by 12%, and then 23 into Thick Skin, reducing damage from damage over time effects by 10%. Moving on, we have 40 into Bastion, increasing the effectiveness of our damage shields. We only have one, but it's a good one, so you're going to keep it up quite a bit. You're not going to be spamming it, but you do want to keep it up as much as possible, so that way you do get that coming in. We do have 19 into Quick Recovery, increasing our healing received by 5%. This applies to Melibeth's heal. This applies to, if you're using it, Vigor. If you're using Crit Surge, it's going to increase those heals. It does work for Dark Deal as well, so. We also have 5 into Heavy Armor Focus, increasing our physical resistance by 514. Like I said, our resistances are low on a Sorc, so raising them up is going to help. Moving on, 56 in a Warlord. This gives us reduced cost of Break Free by 20%. 23 in a Bashing Focus, reducing our bash cost by 14%. And then we have 2 into Sprinter, just because we had some extra points to spend. So put them into something that's useful. Moving on over here, we have 43 into Tenacity. This is our main stamina return, is heavy attacks, so you want to be able to keep those heavy attacks up, and with this build you are self-sufficient, so you don't really need much. This is going to help. 43 into Health Recovery. This increases health recovery. 66 in the Shadow Ward. This gives us 22% block cost reduction, and then 37 into Tumbling, reducing our dodge roll by 15%, and with the one piece of medium armor makes it 14. Moving on to Blue Tree. Increased healing, so 43 points to the bless, increases our healing done by 10%. This is more or less for if you're using Vigor or if you're using Crit Surge. This is going to help you out more. And then moving on to this tree, we have 25 in the Physical Weapon Expert, 56 in the Master Arms. These just improve your light and heavy attack damage. We do play this build in solo, so we need something that's going to help us boost our damage overall, so this does that. We also have 43 in the Mighty, 56 in the Precise Strikes. This is here for Vigor and Crit, not Crit Surge, but Vigor. if we use it. So this is going to increase the heals from it. It also increases our critical damage if we do crit, which we have a really low crit chance. Doesn't happen often. 40 into Thaumaturge, which increases our damage done with damage over time effects by 16%. So overall, the CP is really good setup for this build because it helps to sustain. And like I said, I'm going to go ahead and just show you guys why I like using the other morph for that one skill there, bound armaments instead of bound Aegis. I know, like I said, bound Aegis does give us a lot more resistances, but this just helps us out because we do get 8% max stamina, and we also get that increased light attack damage. And with the way this build is set up, when we have it, now our stamina is 24 and our magic is 21. But we also increase our, because we do that, we also increase our physical damage. And when we use Warhorn, we'll go up to 23k magicka and 26k stamina. So we get a lot more out of it with Warhorn. And we're not critting, but it just allows us to solo play a little bit better. So, but yeah, really like this. Oh, and just so you guys can see, I'm going to use this. I'm going to use my my twin blades, and you guys can see it applies the debuff, and if I switch bars, it'll reapply it, and even if I taunt, it'll still reapply it. So it'll keep those up, even if I switch bars. So we just need to switch bars to keep up our twin slashes, unless we have Blade Cloak. Blade Cloak can also proc that. So that's another thing you can do. You can just use Blade Cloak. If you want to use like the ranged taunt from the Undaunted skill line, you can do that. So, like I said, it will keep the major or weakening applied on both bars, which is really good. Alright, so now to see this build in action, let's go over here and play around in this. Actually, before I do, because so many people ask me all the time, like, how effective is this build in veteran content? I'll go ahead and show you. Now, remember, this build is good, but you have to be careful in how you use things. And when you play in veteran mode, it's better to go with Crit Surge. So, and there's a reason for that. Crit Surge still procs damage, or procs off of Hurricane, and it will heal you. It also procs off of Blade Cloak. So, any critical damage you do. So Blade Cloak, Hurricane, Twin Slashes, it'll proc off of all of them, which gives you a small heal. So if you're going to be playing in veteran mode, I would suggest Critical Surge instead of Dark Deal. And I know Dark Deal gives back stamina, but you just got to be careful. Like any situation where you play a tank, you got to be mindful of how the tank plays and what you're trying to get out of it. In this case, you want to use pots on cooldown, especially because of how much you will go through. And I went ahead and popped my pot early because I want that increased health recovery of almost 3k. And I'm not going to use my shields. I'm just going to let Hurricane and stuff, or Crit Surge and stuff, heal me. So you guys can see for yourselves how well this build can work. You do have to do a lot of heavy attacks to keep it going, but it's not that bad. I mean, even in this situation, the only time that you're going to have issues is when you're on a boss, and you only need to block certain attacks. You don't have to block every single attack. And if you really need it, you do have this. So you do have a shield that you can throw up, and it does mitigate quite a bit of damage. So, and then you do have this, and if you need to, it does work on both bars. Your ultimate, and that's how that works. But yeah, it works out pretty well. I mean, like I said, overall this is a really good self-sustaining build. And you don't really need that much. Even with a healer in your group, like, this thing can self-sustain pretty well. like I said, you have a low magic recovery, but as long as you're heavy attacking stuff, you can keep up a good amount of resource return, which helps out. And your heavy attacks with both dual wield and sword and board will give you resources back, which is good. So. And you have a chance of also bleeding with that, so with the dual wield, because you are using dual axes. And this is with Warhorn up. As you can see, crit surge is going off quite a bit, and it's hitting for like 5-6k sometimes when it crits. And this is veteran mode, so. And as you can see, the Melibeth is going off quite a bit as well. And that's also increases your crits, or your healing received by 30%. So it's, you just got an overall really good self-sustaining tank. There's no other way to explain it. It's self-reliant. It doesn't rely on much. And even when you're in dungeons, like say, oh my god, I can't remember the name. But it's one of the starter dungeons. When you do it, you can run it, and you can run it on veteran, and you almost don't need a healer for that with this tank, but I would suggest, no matter what, always take a healer with you, just for survivability purposes. So, but there you guys go. I just showed you guys how well this build can pretty much, it's self-sustaining. This is just a self-sustaining build. So, overall, it's a good tank. It does its job, it does what it needs to, and it survives. So, but that is it, guys, for the Barbarian. I hope you guys like this build. I honestly, you know, when I first made this build, I didn't think it would be something that I would enjoy. And after playing it for a while, I do like this build. It's not one that I will play on a, you know, regular basis or something, but it is one I do enjoy playing, and I do have a Sorc for this purpose, to play this particular build, because I do enjoy it that much. But yeah, it's really up to you what you like and how you like to play. So, if you like the build, hit the like button. If you guys want to see more videos or streams by me, you can hit that subscribe button. Other than that, I want to thank you all for watching. Until next time, have a wonderful day, and this guy might see you in game. Bye.